Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're going to dig into some serious climate change stuff today.
Yeah, getting into the nitty-gritty.
We're talking the latest reports from the IPCC, that's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, just in case you're new here. And
Always good to have those reminders.
And of course, we've got some insights from the United Nations to unpack as well. So you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. The 2023 IPCC report, it doesn't mess around. They straight up say, and I'm quoting here, unequivocally, that human activity is causing global warming. No two ways about it.
Yeah, they really put their foot down in this report. It's like, the debate is over.
It's over. And they're saying that the planet has already warmed by 1.1 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times.
Which, might not sound like a lot, but think about it. Like, if your body temperature went up by 1 degree.
Exactly. You'd be like, uh-oh, something's wrong. And for the planet, well, we're already seeing the effects. Think about the crazy weather we've had lately. Heat waves, those massive floods. It's getting kind of hard to ignore, right?
And the report gets into the mechanics of it all. It's like this. Greenhouse gases are like a blanket around the Earth, and the main culprit, the one that's really thickening that blanket, is carbon dioxide, CO2. And get this, in 2019, CO2 levels were higher than they've been in 2 million years.
2 million years. No wonder things are going haywire.
It's insane. And the UN report emphasizes this point. It's not just that the planet's getting hotter. It's a whole cascade of effect.
Yeah, like a domino effect.
Exactly. Droughts, wildfires, sea levels rising, floods. And that's not even mentioning the strain on ecosystems, species going extinct. It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in. And one thing that really gets me is the speed of it all. Like, this isn't some slow, gradual change. This is happening fast.
And that's what makes it so different from the natural climate fluctuations the Earth has seen in the past. The UN report states that the rate of change we're seeing is unprecedented in at least the past 2,000 years. We're talking about a massive shift. And it's happening incredibly quickly. We've really thrown a wrench in the system.
And it's already hitting us where it hurts. Like, the human cost of all this is just. The IPCC report estimates that between 3.3 and 3.6 billion people.
Billions.
Yeah, billions with a B are living in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate change.
It's easy to get lost in the numbers. But we have to remember, those are real people, real lives being impacted. Yeah. And the report, it really drives that point home when it talks about the increase in climate-related disasters. Like between 2010 and 2020, the death toll from floods, droughts, and storms, it was 15 times higher. 15 times higher in the most vulnerable regions compared to areas that are less vulnerable. That's insane.
It's heartbreaking. It really shows you how this isn't just an environmental issue, it's a social justice issue too.
Exactly. The IPCC makes it very clear that climate change just makes existing inequalities even worse. So we're talking about things like reduced food and water security. That has a direct impact on efforts to achieve those sustainable development goals the UN is always talking about.
Right. And it's like a vicious cycle, almost.
Totally. Because then you've got the increase in extreme weather events on top of everything else. So now you're talking about the spread of diseases, people being forced to leave their homes, damage to infrastructure, all those things. They hit marginalized communities the hardest. Always.
It's like one thing after another. So it sounds pretty bleak. But is there any good news? Is the UN report talking about solutions at all? Like, are there things being done to address all of this?
There are. And that's a really important point. The report doesn't sugarcoat the challenges, but it also highlights some of the amazing work being done around the world to adapt to these changes. Like, take drought-resistant crops, for example. Some regions are implementing those. Or early warning systems for extreme weather events. Those are becoming more common too. Just two small examples, but they show that people are fighting back, trying to find ways to cope with what's happening.
That's good to hear. So it's not all doom and gloom then.
They're definitely not. And the UN report, it stresses that everyone on the planet is going to be affected by climate change, but the impacts are going to look different depending on where you live. So I'm curious, have you noticed any changes where you are? Shifts in the weather, maybe?
Yeah.
Or how about the local ecosystems? Seeing any changes there?
It's a good reminder that this is not some far-off problem. This is happening right here, right now. And even if we somehow managed to stop all emissions today, like completely turned off the faucet, some of these changes are already baked in for centuries, right?
Yeah, it's like trying to stop a giant ship.
Yeah.
You can cut the engines, but it's going to take a while for that momentum to die down.
So even if we hit the brakes now, we're still in for a wild ride. What's the long-term forecast looking like?
Well, the IPCC report, they really dug into sea level rise. And even in the best case scenario, like if we all went totally green tomorrow, we're still talking about a significant increase.
Okay, and by significant, we're talking.
Enough to reshape coastlines as we know them. And we're not just talking about a few decades from now, we're talking centuries into the future. It's hard to even imagine that kind of timescale,
It really makes you think about the world our kids and grandkids are going to inherit.
Exactly. It's about the legacy we're leaving behind. And that brings us to another big takeaway from the IPCC report. These things called tipping points.
Tipping points, huh? Sounds ominous.
It's kind of like, imagine you're stretching a rubber band, right? You can stretch pretty far, but eventually you hit that point of no return. And SMT, it breaks. You can't put it back together after that.
Okay, so what's the rubber band when we're talking about the planet?
Well, the report talks about major systems on Earth that could be changed irreversibly if we push them too far. Think like the collapse of entire ecosystems, coral reefs, rainforests, or the big one, the loss of major ice sheets.
Oh, wow. And if those ice sheets melt, that's...
Yeah, that's a one-way ticket to catastrophic sea level rise. We're talking meters, not just feet. And that's the kind of irreversible shift those tipping points can trigger.
So, I mean, it sounds pretty dire, but we're not doomed yet, right? There's still time to, turn the ship around.
That's the good news. The IPCC is very clear about that. They're saying that what we do in the next decade will decide the fate of the planet for centuries. This decade is crucial.
No pressure then, right?
Right, no pressure. But seriously, the report is a call to action. And the good news is we've got the tools. The UN report, it talks about all the amazing progress being made in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, all sorts of climate adaptation strategies. We've got the knowledge, we've got the tech. What we need now is the willpower to make it happen.
So it's not about giving up, it's about getting to work.
100%. And here's the thing. Those reports might seem intimidating, all that science-y stuff.
Yeah.
But it's actually a good thing. They've done the hard work for us, thousands of experts from around the world analyzing all the data. Now we just got to listen to them.
So it's like they've handed us a map. Now we just got to choose the right path.
Exactly. And as you're navigating that path, remember, even small actions, when millions of people take them, can make a huge difference.
It's all about collective action. Well, that was a lot to unpack today. We talked about how humans are changing the climate, the real-world consequences of those changes, and the urgent need to do something about it, now.
We talked about those scary tipping points and those hopeful signs of progress. It's a lot to process.
It really is. And we just scratched the surface, to be honest. There's so much more to explore, and we encourage you to check out those reports. We'll put the links in the show notes. Knowledge is power, as they say.
Absolutely. The more we understand about the challenges we face, the better equipped we'll be to create a brighter future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and let's keep learning together.